Jax here from Legend Brands. Welcome to episode 2 of taking a ride down the highway of spots and stains. If you missed episode 1, don't worry. I'll put a link to it in the description below. We covered the difference between spots and stains. Today, we'll be covering what every cleaner needs to know about spots. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe, as our next video in the queue is what every cleaner needs to know about stains. Remember, a spot adds a substance to fibers, whereas a stain adds a color to the fibers. Now, the easiest way to identify a spot or a stain is by kindly asking your customer, "Do you know what this is?" Sometimes they do know, and sometimes, like when I let Ange's house sit, they'll say,
"Oh, Jax, I have no idea where that stain came from."
Either way, it's always worth asking, as it's your job to identify what it is. Another important question to kindly ask the customer is, have you tried cleaning it yourself? And if so, what did you use? Most of the time, calling a professional cleaner is unfortunately a last resort for removing a spot or stain, which is good for you, no doubt. But the problem is customers tend to try everything under the kitchen sink before making the call. Which means not only do you have the original spot or stain to deal with, but you now also have all the cleaning solutions that the customer used and never rinsed away. Many of the products customers use carry a high pH value, which is not good for nylon fibers and definitely a bad thing for natural fibers. And the majority of them, they don't know that. The pH value left behind by these products can have already caused damage to the dyes or the fibers, and since you are going to be the last one to touch it, whatever happens from this point forward is your fault, according to most customers. I highly recommend starting with a pH reading. This can be as simple as applying a little bit of bottled water to a spot or stained area, agitating it lightly, and then use pH paper to take a reading to determine the existing pH value. If the pH is too high, any further attempts without neutralizing the existing pH will cause damage to the fiber or the dyes. And don't be afraid to communicate this as part of your cleaning process. I don't recommend saying, "Hey, you used the wrong cleaning product, I'm never gonna be able to get it clean." But you could say, "The pH is high, probably due to a cleaning solution not being properly rinsed. I'll do my best to troubleshoot it, but I'm dealing with some variables outside of the spot stain that I didn't introduce to the carpet fiber." Another great way to take a pH reading is with my personal favorite, an electronic pH pen. These pens not only help you determine the pH value of the existing spot or stain, but also are a nice visual sales tool as the customer watches you use it in what's perceived as a very scientific way. Remember, the spot or stain belongs to the customer, but if it becomes a damaged spot or hole, that belongs to you. By starting with a pH reading and being transparent about your findings, you're helping to create a more successful customer experience. And I should add, most customers are embarrassed about all the things they tried and failed to clean with. So don't expect them to confess, "Oh yeah, I tried it all, you're my last resort." In cases where the customer doesn't know what the spot is, we can use a few of our senses to try and identify it. We can use our eyes. What does it look like? We can use our nose. What does it smell like? We can do the touch test, meaning rub your gloved fingers on the spot. Does it feel greasy, sticky, or tacky? But we don't recommend the taste test. There are a few spots that don't easily release from today's carpet fibers. Tar, oil, paint, mustard, those pigment-based spots, which I mentioned in the first video in this series, spots versus stains. What's really the difference? And that's because today's newer carpet fibers are very oleophilic, meaning oil-loving. And so this type of spot has a very strong attraction to the fiber and will normally need a pre-spot treatment. It's important to note that normal cleaning is not effective in breaking down these spots and requires the use of a solvent to help dissolve them. All right, I want to quickly cover 2 pre-spot examples. For dried paint, you need to use what is called a paint, oil, and grease spotter, POG, with dwell time and agitation to help break the paint down to a form that can be rinsed away. Then there's oil and tar spots, which require a volatile solvent to break them down. But remember, solvents and carpet backings do not get along. The overuse of a solvent causes the adhesives used to bond the primary and secondary backings together to separate. This separation is formally called delamination and is not easily fixed. So use solvent sparingly. Feeling better about spots? Hopefully. Remember, next up, we're going to cover stains. Thanks so much for watching. We appreciate you. Jax here from Legend Brands. Until next time. Legend Brands.